Over the course of our self-build extension project, we've had a lot of amazing questions to the channel and a lot of very interesting questions as well. And I figured now is as good a time as any to answer all of those questions for you. Hiya folks, welcome back to the show, and first of all, a sincere, huge thank you for 200,000 subscribers on the channel. That is just mad. I can't even begin to think of what 200,000 subscribers even looks like, but thank you to everyone who's been following us on this journey, on this channel. Even if you've only just joined the channel, but if you've been following us from the very, very early stages, then thank you so much for bearing with us over the years. And of course, a very, very warm welcome to everyone who's new to the channel as well. So I figured what I would do as a little bit of a 200,000 sub celebration is that I would answer a few of the more interesting questions that we've been asked over the course of our self-build extension project, because there's been some really amazing questions from you guys. And you know, it's a lovely spring kind of evening, so I thought it would be nice to kind of answer those questions interspersed with a few relaxing shots of all the kind of nature around here. And hopefully from that you'll kind of gain an understanding of why we bought such a dilapidated house in the first place, because it really was a garden that happened to have a house on it, but well, what was left of a house on it. It was a 100-year-old property that just hasn't been maintained at all, needed a huge amount of work, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. Lots more to come on our extension project videos, but let's get into your amazing questions. First of all, Chris, if there was one thing about the build you could go back in time and warn yourself about, what is it, aside from window and door lead times? A build in winter is hard, but I think I might have mentioned on other videos there's pros and cons to it, because it means that as we're coming into the springtime, we're onto all the finishing touches, so we can actually kind of enjoy the property over the spring and summer rather than being in the middle of the build in spring and summer. And if there's one thing that we enjoyed about working on the project in the winter time, is that you don't get too hot. And it's quite nice being able to work on a project where, okay, you can put jackets on, you can put layers on, but when it's really warm outside, you don't really want to do very heavy manual labour. You guys who do it on a daily basis and have to do it no matter what the weather, whether it's cold or warm, you're probably thinking, yeah, man up. Yeah, I totally get it. But yeah, there's something quite nice about doing the build over the winter time. Obviously it takes a lot longer because a lot of things are very weather dependent, and you're going to have more kind of down days where you can't do anything, especially in the early stages before the property's watertight. So anyway, I'm rambling already. I wouldn't warn myself about that basically. The build over the winter wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. I think just little things like maybe pushing the architect more on things like, do you have to use 400 centres or 600 centres on joist spacings, as it kind of turns out. Watch Robin Clevett's video on insulation. You can override a lot of these decisions as long as you kind of have a chat about it and check with your structural engineer. But we could have avoided a lot of insulation wastage by just tweaking some of the joist spacings here and there. We ended up with nearly a third of a skip of wasted insulation because of offcuts. Other than that, just being prepared for a vast array of quality in terms of the trades. We have had some very, very, very good trades working on this, and we've also had some pretty poor ones as well. On the whole, most of them have been amazing, but just don't set the bar too high. Matt says, as someone who is happy to sell up and move to a new house or project quite quickly, do you think there's a prime age or stage to stop taking on bigger mortgages? Depends on interest rates. When interest rates are low, mortgage yourself to the hilt is my kind of view on life. get the biggest mortgage you can possibly afford, because it's the only way that you're going to be able to step up the ladder. We've moved a lot of times, and the only way we've been able to get to this stage is by doing a lot of hard work and a lot of renovations in a lot of different properties and a lot of house moves. And if anyone's moved house, you'll know it's not easy. It's not the easiest thing in the world to move house, especially with a family. So yeah, try and get the bulk of what you want to do before starting a family if possible, because once you've got a family, especially a young family, you don't want to be like drowning in renovation work, and you need a stable place for your kids to grow up. That's why we lived in a new build for a good length of time. You should start as early as you possibly can, especially now, because it's hard getting on the housing ladder. Goodness knows what's going to happen with the economy over the next 6 to 12 months. My personal view is that we're going to see a huge recession, is my kind of take on things. That in itself I could talk about for hours, so don't get me started on that. So I don't know, is now a good time to buy a house? Flip a coin. I honestly don't know, but in my experience, we would not have got ourselves to the place that we're at now without mortgaging ourselves to the hilt earlier on in life, as long as you can afford the repayments, obviously. Jamie says, do you plan on doing anything towards the back of the garden near the river, maybe a decked area? We are just going to keep this natural. Pretty much everything from there onwards, which I'm kind of pointing up the garden a couple of metres, probably for 10-15 metres in this direction, we're going to let it go more or less wild. We've planted a lot of kind of wild flower seeds and things. Obviously there's bluebells that grow up. We've got a lot of like ferny things. The ferns tend to take over. I'm not sure. Let us know, gardeners, what do you do with all these ferns? Crazy amount of ferns. There's always someone on the fern. Moira says, what is the best lesson you have learned on this particular project, and what are you most proud of? In terms of lessons learned, being a labourer to our brickie, wow, what an eye-opener. Being a labourer is hard work, really, really hard work, and I think it's a massively underrated job on the construction site. I think labourers tend to get kind of a bit of a raw end of the deal and get kind of a lot of flack chucked in their direction, and as I say, it's a huge amount of work, but being a good labourer is absolutely critical to the build. If you are a labourer to a brickie and you aren't doing your job properly, the brickie can't get on with job, basically. You're like an extra pair of hands to people. So I would say that has been one of the biggest eye-openers on the project. All the labourers out there, good work. And what are we most proud of? I would say keeping a tidy site. Pretty much every trade who's come to work here has complimented on the fact that the site is really well organised, really tidy. They're not tripping up over things all the time. Everything's got its place. We've got our kind of material storage areas. We had our skip area, and everyone really commented on that. So I'm quite pleased that we managed to do pretty much the whole build. Well, the build is pretty much finished, but you'll have to subscribe and watch a few more episodes to see how things go. Joanne Birdsong says, 2 questions. Is this possibly your forever home? It certainly is our forever home at the moment. We've been waiting on a property like this to come up for years and years. It's probably a 1 in 10 year property, maybe a 1 in 20 year property. Very, very rare for properties near the city. We're 3 miles outside the city centre, and we've got a 500 square metre back garden. There's so few properties around that ticks those boxes. So it's certainly our forever home while the kids are young. And once the kids have flown the nest, who knows? We would love to go down the Restoration Couple route. If you don't follow Restoration Couple, link down in the description below. Big hello to Tim and Joe. Amazing. I am so looking forward to seeing what they do on the farm that they've bought. We would love to do something like that later down the line. But for the minute, you know, the kids are in walking distance to school, we're close to the city, and we are pretty settled here for probably the medium term at least. And have we purchased our American Beast refrigerator, and have we decided on the floor plan as to where it's going to go? Yes, did I show you the floor plan? I think I did a more detailed version of the floor plan, the latest floor plan, over on the member zone. But basically, we're not taking the window out in the kitchen anymore, and the fridge is going to go in front of that. So yeah, did I do a video on that? I'll pop a link in the description below. But we haven't bought it yet because we can't store it anywhere until the plastering's done. Matt asks a very good question. Is Test Tuesday going to come back? And yes, Test Tuesday absolutely is going to come back. I have a whole string of things to test. It's just until this project's out the road, there's not enough hours in the day. We've got to get the extension finished, and I've got to get the studio room finished so we can get kind of life back to normal, because at the minute we're spinning too many different plates at the moment. But as soon as those two projects are finished, Test Tuesday will be back. DP also asks, is there anything we would change about the extension if we could go back? We wouldn't change anything about the design. The design has changed a lot over the last couple of years, however long we've been planning this, and we settled on a design that we're really, really happy with. I'm very, very pleased we allowed the maintenance gap at the left-hand side, and I'm very, very pleased that we allowed for the alleyway and much easier front to back access through the garage. So there's nothing really that would change in terms of the design. As I say, the only thing really would maybe be joist spacings, rafter spacings and stuff like that, just to make insulation a little bit easier and so that we've got less wastage. Swamower asks, would you do the build again yourself, or would you get someone else in to do it if we had to start over? Well, the whole reason that we did this as a self-build extension is that we couldn't find anyone. We could not find a builder. Now, admittedly, it was like mid-pandemic and all that sort of thing. We did get a couple of quotes, and they were quoting upwards of £150,000 to do a simple extension out the back and build on top of the garage. And one of them quoted that and then turned the job down. So that's the times that we're living in, folks. The building industry is in absolute disarray, and as I say, we were already comfortable in terms of we've done smaller projects, and we kind of felt that it was time to take on a bigger project like this. And having learned what we've learned on this, I would definitely do it as a self-build again, and I would comfortably now take on a full self-build of a house. So if we ever find a plot of land, I would do it as a self-build. We've got amazing contacts in the trades now to do literally everything that we need doing. And by the way, I'm not taking anything away from builders. There's not enough of you. There's certainly not enough good builders out there. Most regular people aren't going to be able to tackle a project like this. I tell you that right now. This hasn't been easy. So yeah, hats off to all the builders out there. You do an amazing job. But certainly if you've got some experience in the trades, don't rule out just managing your own project, basically. Project Rebuild asks, to date, what has been the most enjoyable part of the build? I loved labouring for Alan. It was hard work, but it was kind of, it only took three or 4 weeks or something. 13 days all the brickwork took, but it was spread over 3-ish weeks. And yeah, it was hard work, but I really enjoyed labouring for Alan. In fact, there was kind of an offer to labour for him on future jobs, but not enough hours in the day. If I had all of this finished and we didn't have businesses to run and all that sort of thing, I would have really seriously considered doing that, because Alan was an absolute pleasure to work with and I really enjoyed it. Dream team. Pajanath Gaming asks, question about your tools. Is it something we bought in bulk, or is it a collection we've added to over time? It's evolved over many, many years. I very rarely buy new tools. We did have a tool budget set aside for this build because we knew that we were going to be saving money on the build, and there's certain things that it just made sense that we bought them. So I bought a plasterboard lifter, bought a concrete cutting saw, and updated some of my just bog standard tools, like got more cordless tools and things like that. But on the whole, everything's just evolved over 20 or 30 years of doing this sort of work, basically. It's certainly not something I would advise going out and spending a huge amount on tools all in one go. Buy the tools that you need for the jobs that you're doing. Mike raises a very valid point and says if all your subscribers donated £2, you could buy another house and do it up after this one. Cheaper and more entertaining than UK TV has to offer. Member Zone, join the Member Zone. £2 a month and you get access to a whole load of extra stuff. But thank you so much to all the members on the Member Zone, by the way. You're amazing. But yeah, I think this project's going to keep us busy for a little while yet. Disclaimer says, things nobody told you might be an interesting topic for viewers, and the unexpected things that came to light and things you would never have guessed, the obscure stuff and the pitfalls like the architect not telling you about standard sizes, things like that. I mean, to be fair on the architect, he probably assumed that his plans would get followed by a builder, and then the builder probably would have liaised with the architect to say, hey, can we tweak some of these sizes? And because of my naivety of never having worked on a project like this, didn't even cross my mind until we came to the point that window openings were already built, that it might not be that easy getting windows. And to be fair, on the window thing, I think we're just a little bit unlucky with the company that we happen to use, because loads of people in the comments have said, yeah, we can get windows in 2 or 3 week lead time. As I say, best part of 5 months it took to get ours, but such is life. You live and learn. It's one of those things. I think we're just unlucky on that side. Anyway, probably one of the things that nobody told you, you talk about an extension going up and you always think of it as being like a 2-3 month project or something like that. I was amazed at how quickly the brickwork went up. Alan, by himself, dream team, obviously, but 13 days to do all the brickwork, to essentially build a house. I never thought the brickwork would be that quick. If I'd known, we might have done more brickwork rather than block work, but as it is, we're pretty happy with the way things look, so I don't think, in hindsight, we wouldn't have changed it. But if I'd known at the time that brickwork would be as quick as it was, we probably would have been tempted to do, as I say, more actual bricks and less blocks. But I'm not saying that's what we would do now. I'm looking at the fully rendered house here. You'll have to wait for a few videos down the line and it looks amazing. So yeah, subscribe. And finally, Michael Ford says, this is obviously not your first rodeo, but do you still find a big project like this daunting? How do you approach elements of the project that you're less experienced with? Really, really good question. This is the biggest project we've ever tackled. We've tackled smaller building projects, many smaller building projects over the years, but this is by far the biggest one that we've handled by ourselves. And I think the best bit of advice that I can give is know your limits and know when you need to get professionals in to do key parts of the build. So we've probably done 50% of the work ourselves, and then we've had really, really amazing tradespeople in to do things like obviously the brickwork, doing the hip roof. I'm kind of glad that I didn't tackle the hip roof myself. I'm really glad I did the rear lean-to roof myself, because I'm comfortable doing lean-to roofs. I didn't want this hip roof to be my first hip roof, if that makes sense. So I'm glad we paid someone to do that. Rendering, there's no way we could have done rendering to the quality that that's been done. So yeah, I think know your limits is the most important thing that I can advise on a project like this. Pick the trades to do the things that you don't know how to do yourself, and as long as you're good at project managing people, as long as you're good with spreadsheets and lists, ordering stuff, budgeting, all that sort of thing, that's what managing the build is really about. As long as you've got a good overall knowledge of how houses are put together. I don't advise going straight into a project like this if you've never done any construction work before, but as long as you've got a decent amount of experience on how houses in your neck of the wood are built, I don't see any reason why more people can't employ the trades directly rather than using a central building company if you are struggling to find a builder, which is the problem that we had. As I've said many times, this has been a real eye-opener, and it makes you really appreciate the good builders who are out there, many of which are on YouTube. You know, give Robin Clevitt a follow, Build with A&E, obviously Skill Builder, Bricklaying with Steve and Alex. There's so many good building channels on YouTube now. I've linked to a lot of them from the Self-Build Extension website. So if you go to selfbuildextension.co.uk, there's a resources section on there. And I've put links to some of my favourite channels that I've followed over the years. A lot of them are builders, a lot of them are individual trades who do like joinery, plumbing, all that sort of thing. So give them a follow. But this has been a real eye-opener in terms of what tradespeople have to put up with. You know, when you see someone building a house and you see it kind of stall at certain stages, that's probably not the builder's fault, and that has been a learning curve that we've had to deal with. But on the whole, we've absolutely loved this project. We've really enjoyed it. We would certainly tackle a project like this again, and as I say, we would certainly consider doing a self-build as well. Lots of planning, plan everything in advance in as much detail as you can possibly bear. Treat good tradespeople like absolute gold dust, because they are, and as I say, know your limits. And on that note, I think we'll wrap it up for today's video. I hope you've enjoyed that, and I would like to thank you once again from the bottom of my heart and from the bottom of Mrs. Mack's heart as well. Thank you so much for the 200,000 subscribers, and onwards and upwards. We've got so much to share with you, massive backlog of videos, so many videos that I need to edit and get out there, lots of stuff planned for the channel as well. Remember, we don't do sponsorships on this channel, so the way this channel is funded is through the Members Zone. If you want to help support the channel, go to members.gosforthhandyman.com and you can join the Members Zone from there. And as I say, there's a whole load of extra videos, articles, and all sorts of stuff that hopefully it'll be worth your while. Next video is going to be off topic from the extension. It's going to be about the studio room, part 2 in that series. Part 1 was, what, a year ago? Anyway, so that's to come next time. For now, take care, folks. Be nice to one another. Look after each other. We shall see you next time. Tatty bye.